Craftable weapon Genshin tier maker. We can take a look at this, right? I don't know why there's two Dragonspine spears and one of them is very blurry, but okay. Every account should have this. Good refines to make. Strong but niche. Waste of a billet. Alright, these are going to be all of our categories. And I don't know how much of a hot take this is, but I do believe that every account should have at least one Sapwood Blade. 1 and 2 are not mutually exclusive. No, they are not. If a weapon would be in both, it's going to be put on top. Just because of Benny? I mean, yes and no. Like, effectively what this is it is a high base attack sword with ER, which makes it a good option on Bennett, but it also having the effect, right, makes this a pretty good option either on characters other than Bennett, or sometimes on Bennett, if you're playing Bennett in teams that use Dendro, like a lot of the Burgeon teams, right, when you look at Sote, when you look at fucking Curry, Thundering Furry, Thundering Balmy, all that good stuff, right? This is Bennett's best in slot. It just is, right? Like, this is just Bennett's best weapon. Better than all the 5 stars. And those teams are good, and a lot of them are, like, actually fairly accessible. And all of this to say, this is a good weapon. You should have at least one of them. You don't necessarily need to refine it, although, obviously, if you do use it, and you use the teams, like the Dender teams, where this is a good weapon, and you have the billets, it is a good weapon to refine. But even at R1, you should have this weapon on your account. Is there a big impact if I get it to R5? Okay, refinements almost always work the exact same way. It's gonna take an effect that the weapon has, and it's gonna double it from R1 to R5, right? There's a few exceptions to that, but as a general rule, that's what refinements do, right? If you look at, Iron Sting, right? Iron Sting, actually, Project Amber weapons. I mean, fuck, we can take a look at the upcoming weapon, right? 816, 1632, it's doubled. 12, 150, 2.4, 24, 300, 4.8, it's doubled. Right? That's the, like, baseline assumption for weapon refines, is that the effect gets doubled. There's a few exceptions, like the Sock Sword, right, the Sock series, where this part get doubled, but the cooldown doesn't get halved. It's almost halved, but not exactly. The Fav series, where the cooldown does get halved, but the odds to generate the particle doesn't get doubled. I think Lion's Roar goes from 20 to 36 instead of 20 to 40, yeah. Yeah, so there's a few exceptions, but the general assumption that you can make is that a weapon's refines will double one aspect of its passive. Usually it's the aspect that's, like, in blue when you look at the description here, right? Although I do think Jadewing Spear is another one of those exceptions. I don't know if it gets fully doubled. So yeah, refining it from R1 to R5 is going to make it give 60 to 120 EM, right? For Sapwood Bennett, is instructor set required? No, but instructor set is generally going to be Bennett's best set. In any team where you do trigger reactions and they represent a significant part of your damage, instructor is going to be better than Noblesse on Bennett. Because it just gives more, right? Like, you look at how many stats instructor gives, and it's 120 EM. Now, each roll of EM is, on average, this is a 4-star, so it's not the best example, but, like, yeah, right, we got 19, 19, 16, 16, 23, 19, 16, wait, so it's about 20 EM per roll of EM, right? So 120 EM is 6 rolls of EM. If you look at Noblesse, and it gives 20% attack, and if you do the same thing with attack rolls, you're going to notice that a roll of attack is about 5%. So it's 4 rolls of attack. To get 6 rolls of a stat instead of 4, which inherently is just a lot more, But then on top of that, Bennett himself gives so much attack that it makes you hit those, like, quote-unquote diminishing returns for your attack percent, and it makes it so that he's just gonna have better synergy with Instructor. Okay, next up. We're gonna put Crescent Pike in very strong but niche. Crescent Pike is one of the strongest weapons in the game in terms of how impactful its effect is. But at the end of the day, Crescent Pike's strength is reliant on there being a physical carry that is good. And there isn't right now. That being said, on physical carries that are good, yeah, if Risley is if Worcestershire Sauce is a polearm and he ends up being good, that might be the return of Crescent Pike. But yeah, like, Crescent Pike is an incredibly broken weapon, right? Like, I don't think I can stress enough, all right, how fucking broken 40% motion value on every single, not every single attack, but every single hit. The fact that it works on multi-hits is insane. Like, someone fucked this up. But yeah, it's just an insane weapon, but we don't have good physical polearm characters. So, next! While we're in the very strong but niche, we're gonna also add Whiteblind. Whiteblind is also a weapon that gives an insane amount, right? I don't think I have a Whiteblind, so I'll have to use the wiki for this, or this thing, Project Amber for this. But if we take a look at the stats that it gives, right? Where the fuck is Whiteblind? Oh wait, okay, there it is. At R5, 48% attack. That's like almost 10 rolls of attack. And 48% defense, which is like 8 rolls of defense. So you get like 18 substat rolls from this. 8 plus 8 equals 18. I didn't say 8. I said 10 and 8, not 8 and 8. An attack roll is about 5%. A defense roll is about 6 point something percent. So 48% attack is about 10 attack rolls, whereas 48% defense is about 8 defense rolls. Might be closer to 7, but still, like, this is so many substat rolls. It's fucking insane. Like, it's actually insane. Whiteblind is arguably one of, if not the strongest craftable weapon, but it only works on characters that scale both with attack and defense. And when you scale both with attack and defense, usually you'd rather have crit as a way of scaling your damage, because attack only scales the portion of your damage that scales with attack. And same for defense, although on a character like Noelle, it's more like, because your defense gets converted to attack, you get so much attack that you hit pretty fucking harsh diminishing returns. You can take a look at Prototype Archaic. Prototype Archaic used to be reasonable and fine and okay, but we just got better options, so I'm gonna say that Prototype Archaic is a waste of a billet. I'd say, especially now that we have Meltflower that was given free, obviously, and we have the upcoming Tidal Shadow as well. We have Joel. It's a waste of a billet. Okay, next up, Prototype Rancour, also a waste of a billet. Prototype Rancour used to have some value being a high base attack weapon as a sword, because Bennett wants high base attack, but the substat is useless, and Sapwood Blade has just as much base attack, so the release of Sapwood Blade has made Prototype Rancour basically completely irrelevant. It is trash, don't use it. Okay, Iron Sting. Iron Sting... I think I'll have to add a category for this. You know what, I'll just replace this category. Good free-to-play option. It's okay, right? As much as Fav is almost always better on Kazuha, there are teams where Fav isn't that useful, right? Namely, aggravate teams that just generate too much energy, so you don't actually need any ER on anyone. So Fav's passive loses its value. And also, it's a good weapon on Cookie if you're playing her in Hyper Bloom. All in all, like, it's a good option, even if it often gets beaten out by Fav. And so it should be a good free-to-play option. Yeah, it's also pretty decent on all item, that is true. Next up, is this Amenoma? It is, right? Yeah, it is. Okay, Amenoma is... The thing about Amenoma is that it is so good and so bad at the same time. The, like, upper limit of how good it can be is insane. Right? Because at R5, it's 12 energy, and you can get 3 stacks of it, right? Which is 36 energy? That's insane. 36 energy is way too much. What the fuck is this? But you need to be using 3 skills per rotation for this to give you 36 energy. And right now there's no carries that do that. There's no carries that are energy hungry and that use 3 skills per burst. That are sword users. Right? And so... realistically, thank you for the reins. Realistically, you're gonna get 2 stacks at best. And at 2 stacks, that's still fairly good. But it isn't quite as good. And on top of that, with the upcoming finale of the Deep, it gives Amenoma some competition as a free-to-play option for attack scalers. I'm gonna put it in good free-to-play option, but I'd say it's not quite as good as maybe Iron Sting is. Would you use for like Amenoma and DPS better? No, you'd use Iron Sting. Snow Tomb Starsilver goes in a waste of a billet. I don't think I need to dwell on that. Yes, okay, cool. Next up, we have Katsuragikiri Nagamasa. And I don't even remember what this weapon does. Oh, right, it does that. Good on Dory Hyperbloom. You're coping so much. I don't know how to feel about this. I think the main issue that I have with it is that we don't really have good characters that can really need a weapon like this. That, like, Claymore users that have ER requirements so high that they need an ER weapon with an energy regenerating passive. And the ones that, like, could theoretically fit the bill, you just want to run Fav on them, right? Like, it's an okay alternative if you don't have Fav, but ugh. I'm gonna settle on a waste of a billet overall. Next up, we have Forest Regalia, which is, if I remember correctly, the exact same thing as Sapwood Blade, but as a Claymore. I'm sorry. As it turns out, Sapwood Blade being a sword is what makes it good. There's no Claymore characters that really care about this. Beidou! You don't want to use this over Mailed Flower on Beidou. Razor with C6 Bennett, you want Fav. But even if you didn't, you would use Mailed Flower over this. It's just not very good. Prototype Starglitter. What the fuck is this? Oh, you know what characters need energy recharge? I think characters that focus the most on their normal and charge attack are the ones that need the energy recharge. Ugh. Wouldn't you agree, chat? I don't think I need to say anything about fucking Dragonspine Spear. Kitain Cross Spear. Now, Kitain is a very interesting weapon, because I remember we had leaks of Kitain before we ever had leaks of the cache. And I saw this, and I was like, damn! That's a pretty good Ling weapon. And then we had the cache, and I was like, oh, never mind. But even then, right, it is also a good Tomo weapon. It is fairly niche, so I am going to put it in the very strong but niche, but it has its use. Moonpiercer. Yeah, that's true. It's also a good option if you're playing solo Pyro Ling. This sucks. The main issue with it is that if you're playing this on a Hyper Balloon team, it gives a lot less EM than Dragonspine, which means that it's never really gonna be your best option for straight up damage. And then on top of that, if you're playing a character that's energy hungry, Kitain is gonna be a lot better. It giving attack percent just does, yeah, it just doesn't fit that team, and I'm going to be putting it in Waste of Ability. Prototype Amber. Personally, I don't use Prototype Amber. However, it's still a pretty good weapon to have. It helps a lot with people that struggle with dodging and want to try to learn to play teams without a healer. And because there's so many strong Catalyst users that function well in teams that can't fit in healers, like Sucrose and Nahida, then there's going to be a lot of situations where that healing could be the only form of healing in your team. And all in all, it's just a nice weapon to have. Mappa Mare. Here's the thing, right? Mappa Mare gives a lot of shit, right? 32% elemental damage bonus with 110 EM is a lot. But who's doing that? Who's getting that? No one. No Catalyst user cares that much. Yai doesn't often, Yai doesn't trigger that many reactions, which means that you're gonna have a decent amount of your damage that doesn't get this. And you have to swap back to her every 10 seconds, which some teams don't want to do. It's okay. It's a fine free-to-play option, but it's just not insane. It also makes it so you have to wait 3 seconds after putting her on field to use your burst, which sucks. I am going to put it in Waste of Ability. Frostbearer. Now, Frostbearer, you could have made an argument for, because it was the only, attack percent catalyst, right? But, Flowing Purity is going to be coming soon, and it's just better, so Frostbearer, goodbye. Next, Hakushin Ring! Hakushin Ring is going to go in a good free-to-play option. It's a good weapon to have. Niche? I mean, not really. Is it really niche? I don't know. I don't think so. There's enough teams that use Electro. Next up, Fruit of Fulfillment, which is just garbage. Yeah, you can gain up to, 180 EM, and you get a bunch of ER, you lose some attack. Who wants this? Be for real. Prototype Crescent. I don't think you need to say that much about Prototype Crescent. Prototype Crescent will go in very strong but niche.
Special place in
it gives a fuck ton of attack. But yeah, that's basically it. Next up, Compound Bow will go in, wow, this might be the worst craftable weapon. What the fuck? Physical damage bonus on a bow? What the fuck do you mean on a bow? Although, alright, to be fair, if in the future we get some actual physical bow carry somehow, this could be a good weapon. Because it does give a reasonable amount of damage. It has a pretty okay sub. It has a pretty okay stat distribution. But I'm not feeling too hopeful, is what I'm gonna say. Next up we have Hamayumi. Now Hamayumi is actually going to go up there with Prototype Crescent as a very strong but niche weapon. You get up to 64% normal attack damage, or 48% charge attack damage. Which is a lot. That's a lot of damage percent. But it's only going to work on the characters that care about doing normal attacks and charge attacks. And finally, we have King's Squire. I don't know what to say about this. It's trash. Don't craft it. And so, this is what my free-to-play craftable weapon tier list would look like as of patch 3.8. Yeah, I think that's fair. Now you might notice, wow, the two highest tiers are only swords and catalysts. And yeah. They are. Sorry about your billets.